Hello ladies and gentlemen, Omni-sensei is back with part 2 of the series. What if I Isekaid into Naruto with World of Warcraft system before the first Shinobi War? If you are enjoying this amazing series and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell to be updated when I upload the next part. Without further ado, let's dive into it. As we skipped through the vast field of trees that apparently encase the entire fire country, I focused on the road ahead, wondering, how would I deal with the fact that I would have to kill soon? The idea alone was terrifying, and the worst part was, I had no choice. I either killed or got killed. We should be getting to where we are supposed to go in about an hour, Tarifu-sensei informed, when all of a sudden, he shouted, "Look out!" Barely blocking an incoming attack. Enemies already. Fuck, cursing under my breath. I flickered from where I was to a tree nearby sensei, commanding my imp and wolf to cover my back as I did so, as a trio of ninjas charged at us, full speed. Quickly I assessed the situation. One of the ninjas was level 20, and the other two were level 13. Sensei, what do W? It was here when I realized, of my team, I had been the only one to react on time. Kuro had his throat open, and Ami was laying on the floor, drowning in her own blood. I didn't even notice. Focus. Tarifu-sensei snapped me out of my shock. I will take them on, so I need you to run and ask for backup. The base is a few miles from here. Once you get within range without me, the sensors will approach you. Run. Could I really run? No, I couldn't. They would chase me as soon as they killed him. Running was not an option if we play it like that. There is a big chance you will die, and soon after, I would end up following you to the afterlife. I'm sorry, Tarifu-sensei sighed, his eyes on the enemy. I failed to protect them, and now you. I don't pretend to die just yet, I declared, my hands and body betraying my conviction. I was scared to the bone. I could feel my body shaking. But I was going to fight. Very well. I will take two of them. Don't die until I finish them off, Tarifu-sensei ordered, lunging at the Jounin and one of the Chunin. Let's play brat. The ninja that I was going to fight laughed, throwing a flurry of shurikens at me. Unsure what to do, I dodged his attack and threw 3 arcane shots at the ninja, but the bastard dodged the incoming projectiles with ease, flickering behind me with a poof of smoke, ready to deliver a killing blow at the nick of time. I dodged and kicked the bastard as hard as I could on his abdomen as I jumped backward to take some distance. Scrambling into a better position, I ordered my pets to attack as I marked the ninja with Hunter's Mark. Grinning devilishly, my imp started to harass the ninja with one fireball after the other, while DeAndre followed the ninja through the trees, in an attempt to sink his fangs into him. Well, if I can't lose your pets, then I will kill you, the ninja growled, blasting towards me. Great, I muttered, taking a defensive stance. I dodged the assault again and landed corruption and a fire blast on the ninja, who cried in pain for a brief moment, swinging his arm at me. But I leaped out of the way as it swung his arm at me, hitting the tree instead with such force, it splintered the tree. Getting behind him, I used Frost Nova, freezing him in place as DeAndre locked its fangs on his leg. Ah, you little shit, the ninja growled, stabbing DeAndre in the skull with a kunai, killing my pet in a single shot. Angry at this development, I used Wing Clip on him, slowing him down, and then cast Moonfire, blasting him to the ground with the power of the moon. Eat shit, I growled under my breath. You little shit, the ninja snarled. He still had half of his horsepower left. With a somewhat pained battle cry, the ninja rushed at me but immediately noticed his speed had been severely cut. Why am I so slow? That is because of me, I smiled, charging a frostbolt that hit him right on the chest, followed by a fireball from my imp that dropped his HP to the single digits. Not bad, but you die with me. Grinning like a madman, the ninja flickered behind me, his body covered with explosive tags. The bastard was going to explode himself just to take me out. Come to hell with me. With barely any time to react, I jumped as far as I could, but the man exploded a sec after, and the explosion moved faster than me, catching me in a flaming inferno of pain. Level up. When I opened my eyes, I was on the ground bleeding, missing an arm and a leg, and in unimaginable amounts of pain as my HP rapidly dropped. Regenerating. Using my Zandalari troll trait, I started to channel my CHK, regenerating what I had lost faster than I had lost it. God, am I glad I killed those rats. You, how it's not important. I'm glad you're okay. Tarifu-sensei, who apparently had only finished his fight, arrived, got just in time to see me regenerate my arm. and leg. I didn't know you knew medical ninjutsu, though I am not sure if this classifies as such. I'm a kid full of surprises. I smiled weakly, my eyes laying on the corpses of those who were my teammates, and now were nothing but a memory. I might have not loved them, or even liked them, but they didn't deserve to die like sheep. How far away is the base? I asked as I stood up. A few miles, Torifu-sensei answered, his HP bar around the middle. Well, then let's eat first. I sighed, conjuring some refreshments to heal his HP and CHK. Take this, they will heal you up, and replenish your chakra. We both need to be at our best. Who knows what else will we find ahead? Torifu-sensei eyed the food I had conjured with confusion before he started to eat, and as soon as he took the first bite, his eyes opened wide. This is amazing. I can feel my chakra filling up. How did you do this? Kid full of surprises, remember? And that's a technique I learned from my imp. I lied. Sometimes it was best to lie when no answer was good enough. As soon as we arrived at the camp, I was led to an interrogation room. And how could I blame them? They wanted to know why I was suddenly able to do what I do, being able to regenerate limbs, restore chakra at an alarming rate, and use the ice element. And of course, I didn't have a satisfactory answer to any of their questions, so they threw me in a cell, until they decided what to do with me. You must be Raiden, a fair-skinned man with silver, shaggy hair, and dark-colored eyes, said as he entered the cell. Under his eyes and chin, he had thin red markings. There was no doubt, this man was Tobirama. Tobirama Senju LV55. Hokage-sama. I bowed, trying to be as respectful as possible. The reports say a lot about you, Tobirama said. Third of your class, great understanding of the ninja ways. But nothing in this report sells you as something great. I looked at him, detailing him from head to toe. He was wearing his blue battle armor adorned with his distinctive white fur collar over a simple black suit underneath. His armor was constructed from numerous metal plates that looked considerably heavy, that formed multiple protective guards around his body. Yet, today you not only demonstrated the ability to use the rare element that is ice release, but other rather strange abilities. Tobirama continued, frowning ever so lightly. According to your captain, you regenerated your arm and leg in under a minute, then proceeded to create what he called super chakra food that restored his chakra and healed his wounds. Now, can you understand why? Do we have you here? I do, I nodded. In the ninja world, secrecy is key for victory. But not with your allies. I can understand if you want to keep your techniques secret, even if how you managed to learn said techniques elude me. But not letting your team know what you are capable of can lead to catastrophic results, Tobirama stated. Had your teacher known you had the ability to heal your teammates, the formation would have been different. Had he known anything about your skills, even a summary of them, and perhaps your team would have been alive. But we will never know that. They died faster than I could react, I muttered. I didn't even see them until their bodies fell into the ground. I didn't like them, but I didn't hate them, and their faces haunt me. Heck, even the face of the man I killed. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. I see his corpse. You haven't technically violated any rules, and the Yamanaka report shows you are not a spy. But from now on, keep your captain aware of your capabilities, Tobirama sighed, and I blinked in shock. I wasn't in trouble. Whatever you have, it's most likely a bloodline of some sort, which would also explain why the Yamanaka couldn't enter your mindscape, but only know if you were lying or not. I see. That was a relief. For a moment there I thought they had mind raped me. Now, about that chakra food you can make, is there a limit to how much you can make, and how does it work? Tobirama asked. I can make maybe 300 rations before I need to take a break, and how they work, well, you have to be out of combat to consume them. They heal all wounds and restore chakra, and exist as long as I exist, I answered. Who taught you that technique? Tobirama asked. I learned it with my summons. Apparently I'm the only one that can summon them. Perhaps it has to do with my bloodline, I answered, lying through my teeth. Try again, Tobirama glared, flaring his chakra with such intensity I was having trouble breathing. I made the technique, I answered. That was the closest thing to the truth I could get, and if the pressure from his chakra dropping was anything to go by, he believed me. There is no shame in being a genius. By your age I had developed many techniques I still use to this day, Tobirama stated. Is it safe to assume all your techniques are original, then? Yes, I nodded. Brilliant, Tobirama smiled under his breath. You are free to return to your teacher. I have much to think about. I okay? I nodded, leaving the tent and letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding. God, that man was suffocating. His presence was like a knife to my throat. Tobirama Senju 1 hour earlier. Raiden, the reports about him said nothing special. He was bright, but not overly so. He was strong, but not overly so. and yet he had shown more than he was supposed to be. I can't access his mindscape Hokage-sama, Romu Yamanaka side. His head is protected by a shining beacon of light that, every time that I try to go through it, blinds me away. Surprisingly, the light, it's soothing but also threatening. He's a box full of surprises, isn't he? I muttered, reading his file one more time. So there is no way to know if he's a spy without torture. That's the thing. I was able to use my other jutsus on him, just not the one that enables me to walk on his mindscape, and he is clean. He isn't a spy or a sleeping agent, Romu assured me. Just a kid that failed to report his capabilities to his superiors. That is hardly a sin, but it can lead to troublesome developments. I sighed. I will take it from here. I want to meet the kid myself. Very well, Romu nodded. I will leave my report on your desk then. Tell his teacher. The kid will be with him in a few minutes. I ordered Romu. I don't think this will take long. As you wish, Romu nodded, flickering out of the room with a poof of smoke. Let's see how many mysteries I can unfold with a simple conversation, I chuckled. After my interrogation, I went back to my sensei. This, however, didn't last long, for I was placed under a different team within a week. The reasons behind this were never disclosed, but I had a feeling it was because Torifu-sensei felt guilty about losing his first genin team so quickly. I couldn't really blame him. The images of them were stuck in my head as a reminder. I was weak and so were they. Or perhaps he was freaked out about my abilities. Who knows? Under my new team, my captain was cold and very militaristic, a shinobi that followed every rule and carried every mission if he had to die for it, and my abilities to heal and create food were highly appreciated. So under this assault team, I had a support role, and I was glad. Most of the enemies we would see were 10 or more levels ahead of me, so I stayed behind and helped only when needed. Surprisingly, this approach gave me tons of XP. The system probably assumed my squad was something like a party or a raid, and every shinobi they killed would give me some XP, not as much as a solo kill, but enough to steadily level up as I helped my squad. As of now, I was level 11, not that high, but good enough to survive. Heck, I already had Resurrection, a very useful priest skill too. Resurrect people when they die, though unlike in WoW. This technique had a few limitations. For one, you can resurrect anyone that has been dead for over an hour, cause apparently, that's what it takes for a soul to ascend to the pure world. Nor I can resurrect under combat. Had yet to try this though. Not sure how will I explain I'm able to resurrect people. Also, can't imagine how will they exploit me if they find out. I mean, Tobirama already has me producing rations for the troops every time I am not on a mission. I can't imagine what would he do if I start pulling a Jesus. Though, I know this power will eventually be known for the moment one of my teammates dies. I will resurrect him or her. Raiden, can you make some rations? I blinked out of my train of thought, looking at my captain. Sure, I still have plenty of chakra. I nodded with a smile. Then please do, the captain ordered, and I nodded once again, processing to summon the rations. It was an easy job. I will send DeAndre with the rations, I informed him, and he nodded in understanding, going back to his post. From a programmer to a food dispenser, life sure takes funny turns. DeAndre, please take this to the captain, I ordered my pet. Putting the rations on top of him, DeAndre happily barked, running to deliver the food. It was a peaceful post, the support of a veteran team. However, this came to an abrupt end, for even with my various skills, I would soon see the true meaning of war, the terror behind the bloodshed. A few months after, on my 6th birthday, my team and I were tasked to kill one Kumo Ninja, known as the Puppet Master. The Puppet Master was apparently a force to be reckoned with, having killed an entire squadron of Konoha nin single-handedly. This mission was placed under a team by the Jonin commander, when it was normally Tobirama who would decide what tasks were under us. However, my captain accepted, and so the hunt began. It was deep in the night, with the moon over halfway down in the western sky, and I was feeling rather troubled. Something about the mission had me on edge, and I wasn't sure what or why. Along the way, Captain Yamamoto had given me more responsibilities, letting me fight some of the ninjas we would fight on our way. Not sure why. Before, my role was to be the healer, but now I was taking a more offensive role, and I was glad you don't win wars by not bathing in blood. But even then, I felt something was wrong. The title itself, the ninja we had to kill, was scary, forcing a strong feeling inside of me that this ninja was going to be something straight out of a horror movie. My suspicion was confirmed when we finally arrived at the clearing where the Puppet Master was going to be, at least according to our sources, that is. The grass here was low, covered by a thin layer of sand, making an almost circular field that had a peculiar smell. Covering the area The smell of blood and acid. In the middle of the creepy place, there was a small puppet sitting on a tree, which was casting ghastly shadows on the ground in the moonlight, shadows that laughed and giggled in mad delight. Creepy, one of my teammates muttered, speaking what I was thinking out loud. He knew we were coming. The captain growled, "Be ready." Taking a deep breath, I studied the scene in front of me again. This time, instead of one puppet, there were 5. The how or the when they appeared was a mystery, but they there were, sitting on a tree, laughing. Taking deep breaths, my senses on high alert, I grabbed one of my kunai and positioned myself behind the team. I knew this mission was out of my pay range, and that my sole objective was to help my team out. But as I walked to my position, a cold air invaded my spine, sending shivers of fear through my entire body. Turning around purely out of instinct, I witnessed something evil taking form in front of me, accompanied by a fair bit of faint red smoke. At first, the person in front of me looked like a kid, maybe in his teen years. But as it materialized a bit more, I could see that his bony face was wider than a person's could be. It looked like a doll, locked in a permanent expression of delirious joy. His lidless eyes wide and bulging, shining under the moonlight as if they were about to pop out of his head, his wide mouth gaping, showing jagged teeth that dripped melting poison into the ground, which ate away the very vegetation underneath him. In shock, I took a step back in horror. I had seen Naruto, and never had seen something so terrifying. It felt like something out of a Stephen King's novel. "New playmates, come play with me. We will all have fun," he screeched as my team moved to intercept him. Puppet Master LV 30. The Puppet Master looked at me and cackled. "You wanna play with me?" He grinned as fast as lightning, his hand shot forward and something flew at me, piercing right through me. The projectile ended up lodged diagonally on the ground, melting it with the same substance his teeth were dripping. The projectile was a needle as large as my arm. Coughing blood, I dropped to the floor with a loud thud, struggling to keep myself conscious as the Puppet Master walked past me, probably assuming I was already done for. The pain was beyond anything I had experienced. It was blinding, keeping me in a state of perpetual agony as my HP dropped. It didn't take me long to figure out. I had been poisoned. Biting a piece of cloth, I cast Gift of the Naru, healing the hole of the needle had left in my chest. But I was still poisoned, and according to my status, the poison would remain for an hour in my system, and it would kill me in an hour or so if I didn't find a cure for it. Standing up from the ground, I flickered with a poof of smoke to one of the nearby trees, trying to get as far away from the Puppet Master as possible. I had to position myself better to help my team, but as I skipped through the trees, the Puppet Master stopped me. "You're alive, that means we can play. Raiden, disengage," my captain shouted, struggling against one of the puppets the Doll Master was remotely handling. I knew I had to disengage, but how? The Puppet Master was faster, stronger, and had a weird interest in me. I had to fight if I was going to die. I might as well die trying. Fire blast. Needing my chakra, I blasted the Puppet Master with a quick but powerful explosion of raging fire. At this, the Puppet Master laughed, flickering behind me, dodging my attack with ease. "Nice reaction time," he whispered into my ear. In shock, I turned around as fast as I could, but as I did so, I was kicked away into the ground by the laughing Puppet Master. "Let's play some more," he cacked as I cursed under my breath. That kick had taken a little over 10% of my HP. "Raiden, we need some help," one of my squad mates shouted, and I thought, no shit Sherlock, I need help too. "Time to die," the Puppet Master screamed, throwing another needle at me, then another, and another, creating an endless chain of attacks. But this time, his attacks were slow, not like his first one. This time I was able to see them and react accordingly. Ducking under the projectiles, I continued to dodge his relentless throws, wondering why were his attacks getting slower. There had to be a reason behind it. "Die," I said. He screamed, even his mental state was changing. Taking a step back, I blocked one of the needles with a kunai and summoned my pets into the battle, positioning DeAndre behind the Puppet Master and my Void Walker in front of me to tank the attacks should the necessity ever come. "You are not supposed to dodge. You are not supposed to be alive," he screeched, and suddenly his 2 hands shot out, stretching beyond the limits of what the human body is capable of. Much to my shock, ducking, I avoided one of his arms as it passed past me, while the other was stopped by my Void Walker, who tanked the entire hit, dropping his HP to a third. Die using the arm I had dodged. He grabbed the ground and pulled himself closer to me with great speed, stabbing me in the chest while doing so. In pain, my vision blurred as my health dropped to less than a third. Growling, DeAndre lunged at the Puppet Master, biting him of the arm, buying me enough time to heal myself with Flash Heal. "I can only take 2 hits," I muttered, realizing if he managed to connect 2 attacks, I would die. Turning around, I saw my squad struggling against the puppets, which brought up the question, how was the puppet master controlling the puppets and fighting me at the same time? Was that the reason behind his decrease in speed? How are you still alive, you trickster? Kicking DeAndre to the ground, the puppet master growled, before throwing his arms at me. Once again, I dodged as I dismissed my Void Walker, summoning my imp into battle. What I needed was not a tank, but extra damage. Cackling with delight, my imp started to spam fireballs at him, much to the dismay of the puppet master. Grabbing a kunai from my pouch, I took the opportunity to stab him in the arms, but a terrible realization struck me. His arms took no damage. You can't make wood bleed. The puppet master cackled, and this made no sense. He flinched when DeAndre bit him. This means, not all of his arm is made out of wood. The fucker is partially a puppet. Using the body replacement technique, I left a clone behind with the sole objective to buy myself some time. I knew I was not going to win if I didn't change my strategy. So I summoned DeAndre to my side and muttered, "I am sorry, buddy, but I think this is the only way." DeAndre whined, understanding what I was about to do. I was taking a page from the first enemy I encountered. It was time to go out. With a bang, covering DeAndre with all the explosive tags I had in my possession, I ordered him to hide as I waited to be out of combat. To use stealth, knowing this extended to my active pets. "Where are you?" the puppet master shouted as I activated stealth. He had already killed my imp and clone, so this suicidal plan was my last resort, for I knew he would see me as soon as I was within 30 meters of him. But that's all I needed for him to not know where I was for a bit, while DeAndre prowled behind him. There you are. As I had predicted, he saw me the moment I reached a 30-meter radius of him. "Fuck," I cursed as the puppet master grabbed by the arm. "Any last words?" the puppet master inquired, licking my cheek in delight. I nodded, seeing how my wolf was within striking distance. DeAndre played dead, cutting my arm with chakra-powered kunai. I blinked as DeAndre lunged at the puppet master, swallowing him in a massive explosion. The explosion expanded rapidly, blasting me out of the way. Even though I had blinked a few meters away, the raging fire of the explosion caught me, setting me ablaze. Ignoring the pain that seethed within me, I cast Regenerate, healing all my wounds. "No, I can't lose." The puppet master surprisingly had survived, though barely. He had lost his prosthetic puppet arms and his legs in the explosion. His face was burned beyond repair, and so was the rest of his body. He was clinging to life out of sheer force of will. Taking a deep breath, I stood up from the ground, seeing how the arm I had cut was almost done regenerating. I'll be honest, I don't know how I won this. By all means, you should have killed me. But I won, and this is the end. Walking towards him, I pulled a kunai out of my pouch, and using Arcane Shot, I pierced his skull, killing him. Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. 5 levels. Impressive. Turning around, I saw my team, some on the floor dead, others clinging to life. Raiding. "Good job, my captain," muttered, and I chuckled. Good job. I had barely survived this ordeal. Had my plan failed, I would have died. Of that, there was no doubt. I fucking lucked my way through that fight. I sighed, looking over the corpses of my team. I guess it was time to show my newest skill, Resurrection. "Some fights are like that," the captain reassured me. "If you can heal us up." We finished our assignment with fewer losses than I expected. "Let's try no losses." I chuckled, knowing very well that the moment I showed the world I was able to resurrect people, my life would change forever. "What?" one of my squad mates muttered, confused by my statement as I approached one of my fallen teammates. As I approached and tried to cast Resurrection, I noticed I couldn't, for I was still in combat, thanks to the poison in my bloodstream. Well-cleansed toxins. But that had an easy solution, thanks to one of my recently acquired paladin skills. That gave me the ability to erase any poison on my body with ease. Now that I was out of combat, I started to resurrect my teammates, one by one. Done. They were confused, and I couldn't blame them. "You did this. But how?" "I've been tinkering with that jutsu for a while." I lied. I wasn't sure if it was gonna work. I lied again, but it did. "You will have to report this to the Hokage," the captain ordered, his tone colder than I expected it to be. One would think they would be happy I resurrected their fallen allies. But I guess it's human nature to fear what you don't understand. Tobirama Senju Polv. In war, spies and traitors were a common occurrence. But to have a traitor in a commanding role, maybe I was slipping. Perhaps age was making me dull in the ways of the shinobi, for I still couldn't understand how I didn't foresee Kuroko betraying me. But that didn't matter, at least not anymore. I had killed him. After the Yamanaka confirmed my suspicions, he was working with the Sand, betraying the village for a position of power in the Sand. Despicable. His objective, to kill Raiden. There was no secret. Raiden was very valuable, His unique set of skills that seemed ever-changing made him a wild card in our favor, and Kuroko knew that, which is why he ordered the team where Raiden was to go on a suicide mission without backup. Knowing the captain would not question the order with Raiden out of the picture, things would change for the Sand. But his plans backfired. Not only I discovered his betrayal, but Raiden had survived, killing the famous puppet master of the Sand. But that was the least impressive of his accomplishments today. For he had done something I had failed to do. He had created a perfect resurrection jutsu. It shocked me to see such genius at such a young age. This was without precedent. His jutsu, however, had a bunch of pretty specific limitations. For one, anyone that has been dead for over an hour can't be resurrected. 2, he can't resurrect while in combat. This rule was rather tricky, for what did it really mean being out of combat? But, regardless of the limitations of his justice, he had done what I failed to accomplish with my technique, summoning. Impure world reincarnation. From a common ninja to Konoha's most valuable asset, in less than a year. The kid was more than I originally thought, perhaps even more than I thought. Yamamoto. I called the captain of the Raven squad. Raiden won't be under your care any longer. If I might ask, where do you plan on putting him? Yamamoto asked with a hint of worry. I plan on tutoring the kid myself. I answered his question before dismissing him. A genius like Raiden under my wing, only time would tell how far would the kid go. But first I had to make sure the will of fire was strong within him, otherwise I would be creating a weapon that, by the looks of it, no one will be able to stop. Raiden Pulv. As expected, people started to treat me differently as the news of my power spread. I couldn't blame them though. I did what by all means should be impossible. I violated the laws of nature without breaking a sweat, and now I was seen as some kind of savior, or demon, depending on the perspective of the beholder. Raiden, Tobirama approached me. First, I would like formally apologize for not noticing a traitor amongst our midst for that mistake. You and your team almost your lives. Also, I want to congratulate you for your outstanding work, both in defeating the Puppet Master and keeping your teammates alive. Thanks, Hokage-sama. I bowed, a bit surprised at all the praise I was getting. I kinda assumed he was colder in this regard. Also, from this day forward, you are no longer part of the Raven Assassination Squad, Tobirama informed me. Where is my new post? I asked, not really surprised he had reassigned me. Under my command, Tobirama stated. The Leaf Strike Team, also known as the Escort Unit. The team consists of Homura Mitakado, Hiruzen Saratobi, Danzo Shimura, Kagami Uchiha, Kihara Utatane, and now you. From this day forward, I'll be your teacher and direct commander. I say what now? I okay. Unsure of what to say, I nodded. Perfect. Now go by the supply tent and pick up your armor, Tobirama ordered. Also congrats on your promotion to Chunin. It was well earned. And with that, Tobirama flickered out of sight, leaving me in a state of shock. Under Tobirama Senju, my assignments changed. No longer I was tasked with assassination missions. Now the missions I was part of were more on the front lines, with Tobirama teaching me at every turn the various aspects of the shinobi life. With him, I learned I had all chakra natures in sync, odd but not unexpected. The point was, he was actually teaching me while we fought the war. It was strange to say something. Having the Hokage as your teacher. He was smart, cold, and very intuitive, making his classes surprisingly easy, which was to say a lot considering we were at war, and all of his teachings took place on the battlefield. Once again, I was the designated healer of my team, having a support role in the Leaf Strike team. Talking about them, each of them had an array of different reactions to my addition to the team. Hiruzen level 46. He was very welcoming and was always eager to help. Heck, the guy had taught me a few useful techniques with the staff when Tobirama sensei was otherwise occupied. Danzo level 32. His reaction to my addition was, I don't know how to describe it, but in short, he had no real opinion about my addition to the team. He simply nodded. That was all. He gave a nod to my existence. Now, the rest they had strong opinions. Kihara level 21 was not happy at all with me. The why I couldn't understand. Homura, level 22, was also angry with my addition to the team for reasons I had yet to discover. Oh, well, I almost forgot. Kagami Uchiha level 35. He was very chill and had no real strong opinion about me being on the team. With them, he was distant yet approachable. The one thing I knew about him was that his love for the village was massive. Raiden, Tobirama sensei, who had ordered me to call him sensei, greeted. Today we are going to focus on your taijutsu, he informed me. Okay. I nodded. It's painfully obvious it's the skill you need to work the most, Tobirama being painfully honest. I both liked and hated that about him, but when he was right, you will spar with me, and Hiruzen 6 hours a day with each one. Something about Tobirama was that his training fluctuated between things that can break someone down, to easy stuff, okay so only, to jutsu, or I can use ninjutsu while sparring. For now, I want you to focus solely on Taijutsu. Your ninjutsu skill it's very good, but you lack the speed and finesse of a trained body. To make it worth, Tobirama stated, his eyes on me. Fix that, and you will be a shinobi feared and respected amongst the elemental countries. Will do. I nodded, a smile on my face. Very well. Let's get started. Tobirama got into position, and the sparring match started. I liked this training without having to kill. It was easy to deal with. Not because I wasn't used to killing by now. No, that was the sad part. Killing had become mundane for me, Sure, and this, simply training without casualties, brought a sense of normality to my life I didn't know I was missing. Tobirama Senju Polv. My training with Raiden had proven to be effective. He learned what he was taught without many difficulties, but at times he would struggle, every now and then, but he would quickly adapt and learn whatever was slowing him down. Of his genius there was no doubt, of his will of fire. That I had some. He was depressed, according to the Yamanaka exams, angry at the situation he was facing, having to kill for the sake of killing, sicken him. It reminded me of Hashirama. He never really had the heart to be a shinobi, yet he was the best of us. What worried me about this was what if his depression turned into hate? Hate to the village for what he was forced to do. I had to make sure that never happened, so I started doing fewer missions. For the sake of his mental health, giving him one-on-one time every time I could. And it was working. Having intervals between killings was helping his mental state. That, or he was growing accustomed to the tides of war. I couldn't really tell. His mind being impenetrable made most physiological assessments inaccurate. All I could tell is that he was improving, and that with time, his will of fire would burn as bright as Hashirama himself. Of that I would make sure. Tobirama sensei, Hiruzen entered my tent. I was talking with Raiden, and I couldn't help but notice he has no last name, and no one to go back to, so I was thinking in maybe adopting him into the clan. I eyed Hiruzen for a moment before I sighed. He had a point. While by shinobi standards Raiden was already an adult, he was a kid, and giving him a sense of belonging would help him, and perhaps even help my goal to instill the love for the village. An interesting idea. But I think Senju Raiden has a better ring to it, don't you think? You plan on adopting him? Hiruzen gasped, and I sighed. Into the clan, not as my son, but the Senju clan. It's all about family, and with us, he will find a family, and a reason to love the village. Oh, well, as long as the kid has a place to call home, I approve. Hiruzen smiled, giving me the thumbs up, though I feel the Saratobi name has a sexy ring to it. At this I smacked him on the head. You are incorrigible annoying. I smiled, leaving my tent to see how Raiden was doing against my clone. Incorrigibly sexy, you mean? Hiruzen grinned, flickering out of sight to avoid another smack. Sometimes it amazes me he is my best student so far. Maybe Raiden will claim that place and free me from the curse of having to deal with this. I continued to train under Tobirama, improving my taijutsu skill exponentially, to the point I was winning spars against Homura and Kaharu with relative ease. Not that this was a great accomplishment, they were surprisingly weak, but they were Jonin, and I was a recently promoted Chunin, so it felt like an accomplishment also under his teachings. I also learned the Shadow Clone technique, and various water-style jutsu that helped me during missions. As for the missions themselves, I would go with the Leaf Strike team to support the front lines, and because most of the enemies we would take were incredibly strong, I would get a ton of X per battle. It was frankly a paradise for leveling. I wanted to talk to you about something, Tobirama said, stopping our daily spar. It has come to my attention you are an orphan. Rude, but true, so I have an offer for you. As the head of the Senju clan, I would like to cordially invite to my clan. I looked at Tobirama sensei in shock. I did not expect that at all. He wanted to adopt me. Him, the coldest person I know. You want to adopt me? Is that even legal? I mean, I'm an adult by shinobi standards, right? You are, Tobirama nodded. And is not so much me adopting you. It's more the clan adopting you. It's a common practice in the Senju clan. It's how we became what we are, by creating bonds with all kinds of shinobi. How was I supposed to react to such an offer? I mean, for one part, it would solve the problem of having to come up with the last name, something I had yet failed to make, but it kinda felt weird being adopted when my mentally it's not that of a child. You don't have to answer today, nor accept my offer. It's merely a concern I had, and thought I, as your sensei, could offer you a solution. Having a some sort of family, however distant they are, can be truly beneficial. And now, even though we are not related, the Senju will always stand by you, should you need it, whether you accept the offer or not. Well, that was surprisingly warm coming from him. I accept, Senju Raiden, it has a nice ring to it. I chuckled, and Tobirama smiled. Ever so lightly. I will handle the paperwork then, Tobirama stated, flickering out of sight. I guess that's training for today. I muttered, going over to Hiruzen to continue with my weapons training. He was a beast when it came to weapons and most other things. A week after the offer from Tobirama sensei, I was known as Raiden Senju. News sure spread fast. But what really got my attention was not that, was that I apparently had an entry on the bingo book. I was under the submission of the Sand and the Rock and S-Class Ninja, with orders to be taken alive or dead. Not even Danzo has an entry. Hiruzen whistled, looking over my entry. Hiruzen also had an entry, the Wild Monkey of the Leaf. I wonder how will that change for the professor. If a shinobi is known, they are doing their job wrong. Danzo, who had been listening, growled under his breath. I am not known, because I never leave someone alive to tell the tale. But we are in the same group though. That would mean no one is alive to tell our tale, so that logic doesn't apply. I mean Saru has an entry too, I replied, and Danzo growled before flickering out of sight. Have I told you how glad I am you are in this team? Hiruzen snickered. Oh boy, Danzo will be sulking for weeks over that. Priceless. And you are supposed to be the second in command when Tobirama sensei it's not around. I chuckled, sad really. Ouch, that stabbed me where it hurts, Hiruzen chuckled. Hiruzen, Tobirama, who had appeared in front of us with a poof of smoke, spoke. Gather the team, we have a mission in Kumo territory. As you wish, Tobirama sensei. Hiruzen nodded, flickering out of sight. Kumo territory, that's quite far away. I muttered, and Tobirama nodded. However, this mission is of great importance in our pursuit to stop this war, once and for all, Tobirama stated, his eyes full of resolve. Get ready, put on your battle armor, and meet us at the war tent. On it. I smiled, flickering to my tent. Tsunade Senjupov. It has been a little over a year since I saw Raiden. I knew he was alive, he was sending letters every now and then, but I still worried. I wish I could be there doing something, helping him, helping my great uncle. On the bright side, Raiden was now part of the Senju clan, meaning I would get to spend more time with him when he came back. TSUNADE tilde Chan. Jiraiya sang, do you want to go on a date with me? No, a million times no, stop bothering me. You perverted freak of nature. I hissed, smacking him on the head. Why did he have to bother me every day with the same thing over and over again? He knew I liked Raiden. I know the concept is hard to grasp for you, but have some dignity, Jiraiya. Orochimaru remarked, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It is more than clear Tsunade Heim likes Raiden, not you, not only. Her body language around him demonstrates said fact. But she has explicitly said so herself multiple times. It is frankly sad. You continue on your pursuit of the impossible after all of that. Shut up, Orochi team. Jiraiya growled. True love never surrenders. Besides, I am 1,000 times better than that freak. He is a chunin already, Orochimaru chuckled. I'm afraid his results speak for themselves. That's it, you and me. Right now, Jiraiya growled. I will beat you up. Once again, you need to stop chasing the impossible. You won't get the heart of the princess, nor you will defeat me, Orochimaru sighed as Jiraiya raged. As soon as we reached Kumo, we separated into two groups to scout the zone. Tobirama, Danzo and Hiruzen would go ahead, clearing the enemies in their path, while Himura, Kaharu, and I walked behind them, clearing whatever escaped their grasp, which was nothing, for the moment being. That was, at least until someone intercepted us, with a loud explosion. You must be the support team of the Hokage, too bad I found you. The random ninja barked with a laugh, pointing with the crescent glaive in his hand at us. Tarok LV-31 Kinkaku Force. Unfortunately, for you, we are, Kaharu said, narrowing her eyes at him. Where the fuck did her confidence come from? She was nearly useless in battle. Oh, and the kid that everyone has been talking about, Tarok whistled, his glaive resting on his shoulder. Well, today I am hitting the jackpot. As soon as he finished that sentence, I made a quick dash towards him, creating a clone in the process as I unsheathed my Tanto. Tarok, eager to start the fight, smiled, throwing a barrage of lighting attacks, each one stronger than the last. But right before they reached me, I vanished into thin air, flickering behind him. Tarok, however, had anticipated the move, and he spun around, lifting his glaive to counter my attack. Obviously, after training with Tobirama sensei for so long, I had also expected this counter-strike, and I made no attempt to hit him. but used the momentum to leap backward, dodging his attack, all while throwing a smoke bomb to obscure his vision, facilitating the next part of my strategy. Kahari, Hamura, go and find Tobirama, I will hold him off. They were useless in battle, and would only slow me down. I had long surpassed them. How noble of you. By all means go ahead, they don't really matter. Tarok grinned, swinging his glaive around for emphasis. I know, I grinned as the smoke vanished, summoning my Void Walker and DeAndre into the battle. Void, keep Kaharu and Hamura safe. I had to ensure they delivered the message, and my Void Walker was tanky enough to help them escape any other ambush. Very well, Hamura nodded, and without hesitation left with Kaharu and my Void Walker. Finally, let's have some fun. Tarok chuckled, rushing at me. Shukurin Shadow Clone Technique, I announced, throwing a single shuriken at him that multiplied into the hundreds. Tarok dodged the projectiles, which buried themselves into the ground and trees around, then charging his glaive with lightning chakra. He cried with delight, die, throwing his massive weapon at me. The weapon flew out of his hand like a bird of prey, piercing the trees, as if they were made out of paper. No, thank you, I replied, ducking low as the weapon whisked over me through the air in a linear trajectory. DeAndre, attack. At my command, my wolf jumped at Tarok like a feral beast, chasing him around the trees, biting and thrashing the trees around. I was level 20, he was level 31. I had to play this safe and outsmart him, which is why he was fighting a shadow clone. I had switched places immediately after my first attack had failed to assess my situation. Not bad, kid, Tarok grinned, dodging one of DeAndre's attacks, but not good enough, flickering behind me as he was ready to attack. I grinned. How about this then? With a smile, I revealed the explosive tags under my vest, blasting everything in a 20-meter radius, leaving nothing behind, which was the problem. Had that worked? Not likely, considering there was no blood behind. Not bad, didn't think that was a clone. But now I know who's the real you. I eyed him from the hiding spot I had been hiding. You sure talk a lot, I sighed, coming out of my hiding spot. His speed, strength, and level. If this battle prolonged, I was going to lose. Sorry, Kaharu. Hamura, I need my demons with me. Summon Felguard. This was the first time I summoned this particular demon, and boy was he big, 3 meters tall, having a menacing look and an even more menacing axe on his claws. Tarok whistled. That looks fun. Let's make it even more fun then. I muttered, curse of exhaustion, pushing my chakra into his system. I cursed Tarok to be 50% slower than before, giving me and my Felguard some needed advantage. The fuck? Tarok muttered, perplexed at the change on his body. Now, go wild, I ordered my Felguard, who roared in delight, blasting his way to Tarok like a natural disaster. I don't remember Felguards being this scary, and wow, I chuckled, seeing how the demon destroyed everything in his wake. Struggling to adjust to his new speed, Tarok flickered to where his weapon had landed and started to clash with my Felguard, who seemed to be superior in the physical aspect of the battle, pushing Tarok back with each swing of his battle axe, all while DeAndre assisted the demonic entity in battle. How many fucking summons do you have? Tarok growled, barely keeping up with the endless assault DeAndre and my demon were delivering. Was this actually being easy? Had I been slowing myself down? More summons, he said. I grinned. Summon Water Elemental. Using my Mage class summon, I called forth my Water Elemental, who joined the battle, blasting Tarok with an endless chain of water bolts, Hunter's Mark, just in case the bastard thought of any funny ideas. I didn't sign up for this shit. Tarok growled, lightning style. Light a razor. As soon as he said this, a blinding explosion covered the area, and I realized he wanted to escape. Unfortunately for him, that was impossible to accomplish. How can they still see me? Tarok growled as I slowly recuperated my vision, seeing my 3 pets basically bullying the Kumo Ninja. Just for that, more summons, I declared Apocalypse. Using my strongest Death Knight skill, I summoned forth an army of undead warriors, shocking the ninja. You're a monster, a demon. Tarok, the once confident ninja, stammered, looking over the horde of undead with fear. In war, everyone is a monster, I replied, seconds before the horde started to rip him apart, limb by limb. I stared at the bloody corpse of Tarok, seeing how his blood and innards decorated the scenery with a grim undertone that quaked in gore. Well, time to regroup. With no enemies left to fight, I had to let Tobirama-sensei know what had happened. Perhaps he would know what the Kinkaku Force was, and why they seemed to know we were coming. All of a sudden, a pair of massive chakra signatures landed with a loud boom behind me. The fact I was able to sense them, having no sensory skills, was a statement of the sheer amount of chakra they had. What in the world? I muttered, jumping back. Kinkaku, The brat the Raikage wants is here, and he killed Tarok amongst the debris their landing had caused. One of the two shadows that had landed behind me laughed, kicking the corpse of their fallen ally, or what little remained. I see that, Ginkaku, the other shadow chuckled at this. One thought invaded my mind, a single, but simple thought. I had to run. Fear was the one constant of my state, fear like never before. My body knew I was outmatched and was screaming at me to run. Whoever those two were beyond my capabilities to take on. Kicking the tree beneath my feet, I blasted off, but faster than I could react. One of the two shadows blurred past me, kicking me in the head. The impact was painful and effective. Hey brat, where do you think you are going? A silvered-haired shinobi cackled, and there it hit me. Escape was not an option. I had to fight or submit. At this, a Juavi came to me. My mind wanted to fight, but my body wanted to submit. Fear was pushing me to one side, and my will to another. The question was, what was stronger, fear or will? Ginkaku, LV39. Ginkaku, be gentle, the kid will break if we play too rough. A blonde, similar-looking shinobi chuckled. The difference between them was minimal. Beyond hair color and overall height, they looked the same. Ginkaku, LV41. Fear or will? Living like a coward, or dying on my own terms. The old me would have taken the chance to survive at any cost. I suppose I am no longer that person. FYU. I shivered as I crouched down. I kicked at the ground as hard as I could. Soon enough, my body danced into the air and flipped upside down. For a brief moment, I held my arms to my chest, and then as quick as I could, I shot them out to both sides as 20 flashes of light scattered in 8 directions. THK, EHK, EHK. The sound echoed all around the area as I landed. The sharp blades covered in explosive tags that I had launched pierced the trees in every conceivable direction. Releasing the chakra hold I had forced upon them, the tags exploded, creating a big cloud of debris. My intention to buy as much time as possible. Only Tobirama sensei or Hiruzen could fight these two. My hopes for this battle were to survive. Neat little parlor trick. Ginkaku flickered behind me, slamming my head into the ground, blood spilling out of my mouth. I summoned my fell guard and mentally ordered my demon to attack Ginkaku as I healed my wounds. They were faster than me, stronger than me, meaning I only had one option, outsmarting them. If I was lucky, I would be smarter than them. Using Blink, I teleported a few meters away from Ginkaku as my fell guard entertained him, while I kept my eyes on Ginkaku, who was sitting on a tree, idly watching everything as if it was a mere form of entertainment. They were underestimating me. I had to take advantage of that. The question was how? How could I take advantage of this situation as things where I was pushing my body to move through pure determination? Fear shackled my soul, binding me to an everlasting state of fright. And even though I was fighting it, even though I was pushing myself to act through this fear, I was still afraid. This creature is fun, Ginkaku cackled, clashing with my fell guard in a playful manner. If he wanted, he could kill my summon with ease. But he was enjoying this. For him, all of this was giving me a false sense of hope. He most surely wanted to crush to add extra despair into my very soul. Shadow clone technique, I muttered under my breath, creating 4 clones. I had to test a few things before I formulated a plan. 1. Did these two monsters have sensory skills? If so, what type? Chakra sensing, smell, or summon? Then, after knowing this, I would figure out how to play one step ahead of them, pulling a bunch of smoke bombs out of my pouch. Me and every single one of my clones threw them into the ground, creating a massive cloud of dust in the process. I marked Ginkaku with my hunter's mark. Something within me knew I had to keep an eye on him at all times. Ginkaku, the kid will escape you, and you know the rules. If you can't play with your toy, I will. Ginkaku grinned. Taking a deep breath, I ordered my clones to scatter as I hid at the top of a tree. If they had chakra sensing abilities, they would notice I was above them immediately. Any other sensing would take a bit more, and taking into consideration they are playing with me like a cat with a mouse. If they found me, they would not kill me. They had no reason to, not yet. I was no threat to them, and they knew that. Hell no, Ginkaku shouted, cutting my fell guard in 2 with his weird-looking blade. He's my toy. Don't barge in. Not yet. Sure, but hurry. Ginkaku sighed as the cloud of smoke dissipated. He scattered in 4 different directions, which means Ginkaku hummed for a moment, but then his face was adorned with a wicked smile. Fuck it. I will destroy the entire forest. The kid resurrects people. He will probably live right here. I realized why my body was urging me to run. why my body was trembling in fear. The reason behind all of this was the red cloak of chakra that now covered the silver-haired shinobi. The chakra was repulsive, full of hate and utter madness. It was terrifying. It reminded me of Naruto when he fought Sasuke or Orochimaru. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Ginkaku laughed, jumping out of the way, as Ginkaku created a small, but powerful ball of chakra that slowly formed, close to his mouth. Die, brat. With a battle cry filled with delight and madness, Ginkaku shot the ball into the horizon, and deep down I knew that even though the attack was shot far away from me, I would be caught in the explosion. But before the attack hit something, a blur of blue appeared and disappeared, taking the ball with it. The fuck was that? Ginkaku growled. For a moment, I felt as if my heart had stopped beating, and soon after a massive explosion was heard, a few miles away from where I was. The explosion was massive and terrifying, cementing the fact I would have died if that attack had hit where it was intended to hit. Water release. Water colliding wave. That voice, it was Sensei. Ginkaku. Look out! Ginkaku shouted as a massive tsunami of water swallowed everything in its wake towards him. Let's go, Tobirama whispered, grabbing my arm. I had no idea how he had appeared behind me, but I didn't care for the first time. Since these two monsters had appeared, I had hope. I had no idea how, but Tobirama sensei had saved me. From what I could gather while he carried me away, he had some sort of teletransportation technique with a decent range. Each use would take us a few miles away from the demon brothers, giving me a time to breathe. I had survived, albeit barely. No, that was a lie. Yes, the brothers overpowered me, but that clouded my judgment. I had various skills to help me survive, even that attack Ginkaku shot. I was afraid, and it almost cost my life. Had I used Divine Shield, I would have survived. Sorry, Tobirama sensei, I muttered, not really knowing why I was apologizing. In the end, even if I prolonged the battle, they would have won eventually. But somehow my inability to think during that frightful situation made me feel guilty. For what? Tobirama inquired. I was afraid, I admitted, and he chuckled. Fear is a natural reaction when faced with what seems to be imminent doom. Tobirama sighed, patting me on the head. Had you not been afraid of them, the result would have been different. Remember, Raiden, feeling anger, fear, or any other emotion is okay. Letting them affect you, it's not. That's the thing. I let it affect me, I muttered, my head low. I was too afraid to think properly. And while I managed to survive, I could have done so many things better, but I couldn't. Perhaps your judgment was clouded by the overwhelming gap between you and them, but you still managed to survive two monsters alone. Tobirama smiled as he dropped me on a tree branch. Those two are monsters, Raiden. The last time I fought them, I almost died. Granted, I was alone, but they still managed to push me to the brink of death, an accomplishment not many shinobi have, so be proud you survived them, and now that I'm proud you did. I smiled, some way that made me feel better. Where is the team? A few miles ahead, Tobirama informed me. We need to tell them about the situation, so let's move. With nothing more to say, Tobirama sensei flickered out of sight, with me following him close behind. Tobirama Senju Polv. Raiden had survived the Gold and Silver Brothers, an accomplishment very few shinobi could brag about even if they were playing with him. He had managed to keep them entertained long enough for me to arrive. I was proud of him, of the shinobi he was becoming. Tobirama sensei. Hiruzen greeted with a smile that conveyed his relief. Hey, Raiden waved at Hiruzen, who hugged him without giving him time to process or dodge the sudden attack on his personal space. You almost gave me a heart attack, Hiruzen chuckled. Do you have any idea how many ladies would cry if I died? 0, Raiden answered. That cuts deep, my guy. Hiruzen sighed. I mean, my mom would cry. Would she though? Raiden grinned, and Hiruzen chuckled. A sight to behold, laughs amongst comrades. I never thought this one would be my last. Reunion is over, we have much to discuss. Right, Hiruzen and Raiden nodded. Raiden encountered the Ginkaku squad and killed one of their members. I informed them soon after Raiden fought the Gold and Silver Brothers. They are still alive, aren't they? Hiruzen inquired, his tone low. Yes, the entire area where Raiden was fighting them was surrounded by them. If I have to take an educated guess, it was in case if Raiden managed to escape the brothers. Also, from what I managed to feel, they had a squad of over 20 shinobis, all with Jounin chakra levels. I nodded. At the pace they were following me when I rescued Raiden, they will catch up to us in a few hours at most. A group that big with those two, our chances of winning are very low, Kagami sighed. Which means one of us has to stay behind to buy the rest some time. Hamura gulped, his hands shaking. At this, Danzo tensed up as if he was trying to say something, but once again Hiruzen beat him to the punch. I will Hiruzen stated. I will stay behind and buy us some time. Hiruzen, I was about to offer myself. Danzo growled. Hiruzen and Danzo, always competing, like foolish children. I will miss this nonsense. I will be the decoy obviously. I stated, you are the young flames that will continue to protect the village with your will of fire, and as long as I breathe, I will protect you all. You can't. You're the Hokage. Danzo shook his head. There's no greater shinobi in the village than you. You are sacrificing your life for the mistake of a brat, Koharu exclaimed, pointing at Raiden. I glared at her with enough intensity to make her lower her head. Raiden performed admirably, and by no means should be blamed for this. The Ginkaku force is most likely after us, which is why they were here to begin with, even though our intel said they would be at Kiri. Killing us would not only get rid of the Hokage, but the strongest squad in the Leaf. It's a very obvious objective when you think about it. Kagami sighed. Then let me stay. If they kill you, I can bring you back. I can hide and wait for them to leave and resurrect you, Raiden said, and I smiled. I am afraid this is a mission I must complete on my own. I patted Raiden on the head. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and looked at Hiruzen. Saru, protect those who love the village and those who believe in you, and take care of those whom you will entrust the next generation to. Starting tomorrow, you will become the Hokage. Hiruzen took a step back, looking at me in shock. What a foolish child. I nodded. Saru, I'm leaving Konoha to you. Yes, sir. Hiruzen nodded. Before I leave to face the enemy, one last order. I smiled, looking at Raiden. For your implacable skill, I, Tobirama Senju, promote you, Raiden Senju, to Jonin. Thanks, Tobirama Sensei. Raiden smiled, fighting the tears forming in his eyes. Protect Konoha and nurture the future generation for me. I hugged Raiden, an action that surprised even me. Age was really getting to me. When did I become so sentimental? If Hashirama were alive, he would laugh at me, and for a good reason, even though he was always the most sentimental of all of us. I will, Raiden nodded, and right there, in his eyes, I knew I had done. Somehow, I had managed to ignite the will of fire within his heart. Good. I can die at peace. Goodbye. At this, I teleported to one of my seal markers, waiting for the Ginkaku force to arrive, for my death to arrive. Did I have any regrets? No, maybe dying without seeing the peace Big Brother dreamed about. But that is beyond me now. That dream is now in the shoulders of the next generation. I did my part. It's now their turn. Ginkaku. Look, Ginkaku shouted, stopping a few trees ahead of me. It's the second Hokage. Brilliant observation, I scoffed. Dying for your teammates. That's a stupid plan for a man famous for his intelligence, Ginkaku cackled. It's what a true shinobi would do. I grinned, getting into position. Not that is something you can understand. And that concludes this episode of What If I Isekaid into Naruto with World of Warcraft system before the first Shinobi War Part 2. The story will continue in Part 3, so ensure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be updated. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. I'm the Sensei signing out.